and welcome to the Mead Hall. My name is Jay, and I'm your host here today for our Mead Hall Gaming Podcast. And today I am joined by Joe.
Elle.
Thank you very much for joining us. I'd like to pass on apologies from John, who can't be here today to join us. But
Silly boy.
we won't rib him too much. Although I think maybe he'll be the subject of Tankard Talk for the next, 6 episodes.
Yeah.
So
I think that's fair,
right?
Yeah, it's a fair price to pay. Yeah.
So look forward to 6 episodes of John crying at the beginning of the episode.
Why does he not cry in an episode is my question.
I don't know, to be fair.
He's always in existential crisis. It's great.
I mean, in fairness, I cry between episodes.
That's very true, yeah. And I cry when I'm editing them. So
I just cry.
we all cry. We all collectively cry in our own times.
Yes. And on that lovely note, talking about Tankard Talks, today we are going to be entering the realm of the Tankard Talk.
Yeah.
And that is coming up in just a moment. Said the name more than once, and I've royally shoved that down your throat. Please do remember to subscribe.
Little plug there, I like that. That's very good.
I believe we are going to be grilling a certain Joe today.
Yeah, I'm being grilled.
How about you tell us and the audience at home what hobby you have been up to in the past few weeks?
Well, last podcast, I believe we talked about hobby fatigue, right?
Yes, I believe that might have been a topic that came up.
I seem to remember that I'm pretty strong on the Tyranids.
Yeah, I believe you proudly stated that unlike myself and John, who are very comfortably admitted that we were in no way, shape or form gonna deny the fact that we were under the thumb of faction paralysis. And you yourself somewhat tried to be, or
I'm trying to stay to one faction.
yeah, but in the conversation, immediately admitted that there was at least 2 other armies you were interested in.
There's more than 2 now.
Yeah. But you yourself, Joe, you were vehement that you were not going to pass beyond the realm of the Tyranid.
Yeah, I
You
did
were
say that.
very confident about it.
So, the short story is, for Legions, I now have 2,500 points of Elder.
That's a shift.
Yeah. I didn't realise it was that much.
Yeah.
I'm acting like I don't know this, but what you guys don't know is that about an hour ago, before we started recording this, I just played that army. Played against it.
Yeah.
So maybe suffering from a little bit of faction paralysis.
Yep, there's just a hint. Just a hint of faction paralysis there. But in fairness, though, there was a reason you decided, wasn't there? It wasn't a case of being bored of Tyranids, was it?
It was not a case of being bored of Tyranids. It was, I'd say, a solid sort of 70%. The fact that the wings on everything that flies in the Tyranid army are so difficult to print.
Which might lead on to a topic of another podcast where we start berating, or pleading, shall I say, for factions such as the Tyranids be made into plastic miniatures.
Absolutely.
Life would be so much more wonderful.
So obviously that sort of 70%. That, and also because, I don't have tanks, right?
Yeah, you did seem to have a bit of a leaning in the tank direction.
Yeah.
I love tanks. I think they're brilliant, especially in Legions.
They're great.
I do like them a lot in Legions, I have to say.
I mean, what can you say about Legions? You can just have more toys.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry to jump on your grilling here, really, but I've seen some videos recently by the likes of Tabletop Tactics, and they've talked about 40k being too big. There's too many models for that scale on the table, and the reaction is that everyone wants their toys on the table. To be honest, the perfect solution already exists. Legions is there.
Yeah.
You can have all your toys and still play a good game.
Yeah.
Granted, that game took a little bit longer than we intended, but there was a lot of chatting and learning and stuff like that.
Yeah, you guys were only just packing up when I got back. So.
Yeah. I think the only thing with playing sort of a fan-made army is that there is obviously the 2 books to shift back and forward.
Yeah.
But that would be the same if GW were supplements. So.
And in fairness, over time, the reality is I'll probably end up memorising all the rules for the main book anyway, so you won't have to worry about
it. The thing is, the Legion's rules are that much more simpler that it's easier to memorise them anyway.
So have you made your own rules for your Eldar like Jamie did with the
I
next
did
ones?
not. There is a Reddit page that they did the Tyranids rules.
And
I got curious and Googled whether there was already existing Eldar rules, and there's Eldar and Orc rules in that Reddit page.
Wow.
They also have rules for Psykers and Astartes Psykers,
which I'm very interested in.
That's awesome.
Yes, the community support, certainly online for Legion, is quite good. Not a lot on YouTube at the moment yet.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a lot of cool additions being made by communities. I mean, as also already mentioned, I have started writing rules for Necrons as well.
Yeah,
they're really good.
I think the person that writes the rules is also working on Necron rules.
I'm sure they are, and I'm sure we'll compare them and see which one we prefer.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we're writing community rules. They're writing community rules. There are some things in the community rules that I've already pointed out in both the Eldar one and the Tyranids one. I'm like, I think that needs to change.
Yeah.
Actually, to be fair, the Eldar one seems alright at the moment. I haven't played around. We've only played the one game, and I haven't read the rules, so I can't comment too much on that one yet. But certainly with the Tyranids one, there were a few things I wanted to change.
Yeah, I think the big thing with the Tyranid one was just the unit variety, wasn't it? It was like
it's the way they structured the units.
Yeah.
Not having specific unit types for certain broods.
Which they seem to have improved in the Eldar one.
Which is good.
Most things come under their own sort of separate detachment type, aside from there's a good spread of different detachment types. That was good.
Yeah, so that's all quite good. But the real meat and potatoes of any question when it comes to your armies, Joe, is how many paints are being used?
9!
9?
9 whole paints!
Oh my goodness, I still can't believe it.
3 times as many as your last army.
Yeah, 9 whole paints. And there's a main body colour, there's an accent colour, and there's also a colour that goes in between the lines on the panels.
Oh my gosh.
It's almost like I like painting, which is not true. I have painted so far 4 tanks out of the entire thing that I've printed so far, and
they look really nice.
They look really nice. They took me 2 days.
Really oh my goodness!
And that's way too long. I painted 10 last night.
I could speed it up. I could do it more efficiently, but yeah.
Well, he didn't. I'm gonna drop you in it here. Okay. He didn't realise that you were coming over so early today, so he rushed, painted them, so that they would be painted ready to play the game with you. Which I thought that was quite cute. It was quite brotherly,
I did speed paint them.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I don't think you can tell.
I used to do that with our old games in Warwick.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of did. But...
Yeah, there was I think those Outriders, I remember finishing those half an hour before I was due to go down and play.
Yeah.
So probably still wet paint.
Well, at least both of you have done that for each other.
Yeah.
That's quite cute. It's full circle.
I can assure you it won't be the last time. I mean, as it stands, I've only got 2 more Titans to do. And, an entire air wing. But, yeah.
Yeah.
At the rate I'm going, I think I'll have that done by the weekend.
I would have a Titan, but the thigh didn't print.
No, but that thigh I want because it's terrain.
It didn't print. It was one of the
Not at all.
Not at all, yeah.
That's a shame.
Well, any misprints are terrain, so we want those.
Yeah.
We want those in the box.
Because we had some. We had an unfortunate casualty. Some of our tiny baby crates for terrain.
Cargo container,
Yeah.
Munitorium containers for legions.
They
exploded.
They went kaput.
But-
they decided they didn't want to participate anymore, and they just broke.
Yeah, that's maybe a discussion if we ever decide to go into the realm of 3D printing and the mishaps that can happen.
Yeah. I mean, having seen them today, if you could do it controlled, that'd look great.
Well, that's the thing. They did break or explode in such a perfect way. I was able to turn them into damaged terrain.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
They
that's
look
very
sick.
good.
it worked perfectly for that. But that was luck more than anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think.
You've been quite successful then, really, haven't you, in hobbying recently?
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Well done, Jay.
That's the thing, is, I start new armies often, but since being able to 3D print them, I do get, a whole army through.
Oh,
Yeah, well, you do have, over 3,000 points of 40k scale nits?
Yeah.
Or Xeno nits?
Yep.
And now you have nearly 2,500 Eldar for Legion.
That's quite impressive, actually.
Yeah. I've got 2 more units to print, and then I've got to print all the stuff that didn't print again. And then I'll have just under 3,000 points. It's 6 points under 3,000. Right.
I mean, we know, we've already discussed this, but we know you need a few different units.
Yeah, unfortunately, Oops All Tanks does not work in balanced
But
army.
in the interim, if I get my hands on some more tanks, we could have the tank battle.
Absolutely.
That would
I probably could paint up a load of tanks pretty quickly, so we probably make that happen.
That would be really
In
interesting.
the interim, while we wait for you to build up the rest of the army that you need, it gives you a bit more time to paint them. Because for a chain, I'm ahead of you on the painting game. For a change.
Yeah.
You did start way earlier.
Yeah, I did. But in fairness, I've done almost 50% of them in the last week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it doesn't really take that long for me to do them. So, bit of a cheat, really. But yes, I look forward to future games of Legions against Eldar.
Yeah.
And we definitely want to see that second. We get
So sad.
Yes.
You look heartbroken.
I am.
I'm not. I got to trap my new plasma gun. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was so close to going off.
Almost.
Almost. We almost got to a psychic phase.
Almost. But not quite. You should have left him right in front of my Titan.
He was so far away. He was actually behind a building until you blew the building up.
I'm telling you, he loves blowing buildings up during game.
I do too.
He blew his first one up in our game the other day, and he was, so happy. He was literally jumping up and down.
I love it too. I shot 4 Titan guns into a building in that game, and all of them missed.
Oh.
Not even the building saved. All of them missed.
And you're only 8 inches away as well.
How the hell did you do that?
Yeah. I know, right?
Oh my goodness. Okay, well.
Not that how far away from it makes any difference rules-wise.
No, but you can imagine in realistic terms, your Titan is literally the equivalent of about 30 feet away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, and he manages to miss a skyscraper.
Yeah.
The second-hand embarrassment on the battlefield would be marvellous.
Can imagine just it might have slipped on a civilian truck or something just as you went to fire.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or a giant banana peel. Look, we've seen Stranger Things in 4K, let's be honest.
That's true. The what put it there?
Could have just been a Zeech and Shapeshifter.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right, well, I think this is devolving into quite literal chaos, as it says.
Yeah.
So, I think it's probably time to move on to the main event, don't you?
Indeed.
Yeah, sure, let's do it.
Cool.
And
So-
thus concludes Tankard Talk.
Indeed it does. So we will see you over in just a moment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So, today's topic of conversation is going to be D&D,
Indeed.
which is a little pivot from what we normally do.
Mm-hmm.
And the keen-eyed among you may have spotted a couple of hints that might be coming up.
Maybe.
I'm not going to lie, I just found the books about 5 minutes before recording and thought I'd check them on the table.
awesome.
So, we have decided, between us as a team,
We have.
that we would like to engage in a little bit of D&D.
Indeed.
It's very
And
exciting.
thankfully for us, we do have 2 expert D&D players, one of which is not here.
How dare you, John? Vanada.
I myself played D&D a long time ago.
Yeah, I have never played D&D in my entire life.
No. But we do have one expert with us, and thankfully it is also the expert that will be running the show.
Indeed.
As DM.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably appropriate that you lead the discussion at this point,
Yes.
even though I'm in the centre chair. I think I will pass over to you. So would you like me to prompt you with some questions, or do you wanna spiel?
Right. I will spiel for a bit and then grab some questions.
Spiel away, my darling.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have decided that we're going to attempt to go ahead and live stream some D&D.
Uh-huh.
We'll record it also so we can release it on the channel. But
So please look out for the Mead Hall Twitch channel, which will be coming very soon.
yes.
Very, very soon.
Once we get that all set up and work out what we're doing with it.
Yes.
Our absentee member is in charge of that.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that's why he's not here, but it's not.
So, we are starting that. I am making a whole sort of homebrew setting for it. Have a very interesting party dynamic.
No, what I'm going to say, Joe, is that from my end, I simply suggested an idea that, to be honest, I thought you'd reject outright because it was ludicrous. And you said, no, you can do that. So,
Yeah,
like a dog with a bone, I'm like, well, I'm doing that now.
yeah, absolutely.
It's your fault.
Absolutely. It is my own fault. And to be fair, that ludicrous suggestion from you is not the main problem.
No, I know who the main problem is.
It's not me. I don't think.
No, it's not you.
It's John. John, you're the problem.
There's nothing wrong with John. John is there. In the setting that I've created, there are a number of sort of factions that have varying degrees of whether they get on or not. And John has chosen the one that is the least likely to get on with anyone else's character.
And I think a little bit of a challenge isn't so much of a bad thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially as this is a whole new thing for us at Mead Hall. I feel like it's gonna be. I'm excited. I cannot tell you how excited I am.
The thing is, as well, is it creates an interesting party dynamic that will create a lot of interesting moments.
Yeah.
I can already see there's a number of things with your character that might cause some interesting reactions down the line, and there's a lot to be explored there. I personally am not one for putting up a lot of restrictions on the game. I know there's some DMs that won't do sort of some of the flying races, or they'll ban certain spells, and I don't like that, because personally I feel like if you have to, it's a storytelling game, so you should be able to come up with a challenge. If your character is flying all the time to sort of solve puzzles, or flying all the time to get out of things, wings are fragile. There's always ways around things. And like in a world where it's supposed to be collaborative storytelling, I'm not a fan of outright saying no to a thing.
Yeah,
if it physically can't exist within the setting for setting reasons, like we have the setting that I've created has a couple of different ways that magic works, and so like certain things, I don't think any of you have chosen to use one of the magics that's like particularly restricted.
I don't think. Have I? No.
No, because
No.
you're both the faction that sort of get their innate magic anyway. So
Yeah.
Yes, we cheated.
But
we found a loophole. We just.
But yeah, so there is sort of stuff with the magic, and there is stuff with the restrictions of the magic. But like that's a restriction for story reasons, rather than just I don't like working out how wings work.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you hold a really good point as well, because it should be fun.
Absolutely.
It should be like as fun as possible, and I feel like if you've got more wiggle room, then you've got much more opportunity to enjoy actually what you're doing.
The way I see it is like it's improvisation, it's collaborative storytelling. I'm not against you as the players. I've just created a setting for you to throw your characters into, and like
Literally.
I am more than happy for you to try and kill us, though.
Oh yeah,
because you might not be against us, and it is a storytelling environment. But one thing I hate about D&D is when you get certain DMs that will fudge the numbers so that you don't all just die because you've done something really dumb.
So, character death is a story thing in itself. And I'm going to put on the table a couple of homebrew things that I like to do personally that I haven't actually sort of said, but I want to...
Let's discuss.
Yeah.
Please do.
So, first of all, the tamest one of the two.
Okay.
Death saves.
Yeah.
I like them to be rolled by the player behind the DM screen.
Oh.
So other players don't know how.
So other players don't know how close to death you are.
Okay.
I love that! Oh my god!
Only you and the DM will know how close your character is to death.
So in order to communicate that, have we got to like act it or what? Or are we just not allowed to say anything? Or how does that work? Why are we doing that?
So at that point, you are unconscious. You are bleeding out.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So
this is showing my age when they come
narratively,
the game.
Narratively, when I'm thinking about it, it's that thing of like you might get to the end of the fight, and then the cleric comes over and tries to heal you and finds out there's nothing there to heal.
Oh dear.
Oh.
Okay, so it kind of puts the emphasis on the other players to think, well, maybe we should actually try and save him because we don't know how long we've got until it's too late.
Because you could roll that one and then another fail and be completely gone within 2 rounds. Or you could roll, like, you could be there for 6 rounds. Like,
I like it. I'm all for it.
The anxiety inside of me right now.
And the second thing is a lasting wound table.
And what?
Okay.
So, D&D, generally, no matter how bad you nearly die, you go to sleep and it all gets better. The lasting wound table is a variant rule in the Dungeon Master's Guide, but there is the DM of High Rollers, a popular Dungeons & Dragons stream, does a lasting wounds table where essentially when you get knocked down or you take a critical hit, you roll a dice against your constitution, and if you fail that roll, you get a lasting wound. So like an arm cut off, a leg cut off, blindness.
So for the rest of the time, you either are limbless or blind?
Until you can heal it, which you can use magic to heal it. But it's particularly big magic.
I was going to say, what's the limitations on that then? Because one thing that annoys me about D&D, and to be honest, a lot of games, whether that's tabletop or even video games,
I know
death does not feel like a barrier to the story.
Yeah.
I mean,
it doesn't feel like death, does it?
D&D, your character dies now. Oh, guys, can you go and resurrect me for like 100 gold?
Yeah.
Or 1,000 gold.
So, first of all, to address that, death is... The setting itself is low, is like magic is scarce, magic is rare. So, like, even though your two characters come from a place of innate magic, the faction that you come from is rare, dying out, hunted to extinction. So, and those sorts of magics sort of rare in the world. So, like, you won't be able to go over to a particularly religious town and find a cleric that knows how to revive your whole party.
Yeah, that checks out.
And the wound table would have pretty drastic negatives to it. Not like game-breaking negatives, but...
So, let's say, for example, in this campaign that we play, one of us dies. Like, we get permadeath, or whatever the term is. All right, we die. How are we going to go about bringing that person back, or can we?
Yeah.
Is it possible in your world to bring someone back? And if so, how?
It is entirely possible.
Right.
It is the method that is the most readily accessible is very expensive. Very expensive. Off the top of my head, I think John's character would be the closest to being able to access it, but it is something that's like kind of off the table for the majority of people. So there are other ways, but they're less well known.
So essentially what you're saying is one of us dies, that's a ready-made quest.
Yeah.
That one person's not going to be involved in very much.
Well, how I'd sort of handle that is you either have a temporary character or a new character.
Yeah.
This, I mean...
We want everyone to be involved. We don't want someone to die and then it's like, oh,
also,
right then.
Running if two of you die, it goes down to a party of 2 people, which is not a fun game of D&D to play.
Sorry, it's worse if it's only one.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be quite interesting, actually, if, like, all but one of us dies and that one person has to make this decision. Am I going to solo quest this to save my 3 companions, or just like, nah, I'm alright?
Yeah, so...
I have a funny feeling one of our characters might do that.
But yeah, so... so that's the sort of homebrew things that I've put in. I've used the lasting wound table before. I need to refine it, because it was a little bit broken last time I used it. But that was a setting that had like prosthetics readily available and things that if it was a little bit broken, it could be a little bit more easily fixed. So I need to make it a little bit less game breaking. But
okay. Well, I mean, I like the sound of it. I like the fact that there is some threat.
Yeah, it feels like it does feel a little bit more.
I don't want it to be one of those games where we just think, let's just charge in and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Because a lot of D&D that I've seen, I mean, granted, I am not a big watcher of it as a general rule, and I haven't played it for many years myself. But I have a lot of distinct memories of being able to, when I've been playing D&D before, we could pretty much just charge into a situation and probably meat grinder our ways through it.
Yeah.
Whereas I like a bit of thought to go into it, a bit of planning. There will be occasions, I'm sure, where you can't plan, you've got to react to the situation. And that's natural, especially in any story, let alone one that you're playing. But, I think a really nice example for me, the kind of thing that inspires the storytelling, would be something like The Witcher. The Witcher games and the TV series, whether you liked it or not, it will have redeeming qualities in there. Please don't just, write it off. But the books, which I've never read, I've heard good things. To be honest, I only really played the third game all the way through. Yeah. And I have watched the entire series. And what I like about that is the concept that The Witcher, that character, let's assume The Witcher is our party. Yeah. They get given a task and their objective then is to go and learn about the opposition, find the right tools for the job, then go in. Whereas if The Witcher just ran into in fact, I believe there is an episode pretty much in the TV series, whether it's a good one or not, I don't know, where one of the witches basically does run into a confrontation he's not prepared for and dies. Yeah. Whereas Geralt goes in, made his plan, and survives because he planned ahead. Yeah. And that's the kind of scenario I like to see in games. So
And there will obviously be encounters that like get randomly strung.
Yeah, which you expect.
But like, yeah, the majority of sort of the big plot points and things, I like to have planning behind it. I like to give more objectives than just run in and kill the thing.
Yeah.
Right. I think it can be very easy to get caught up on making something high combat. But I think the interpersonal things in D&D, the plays between the characters, are a lot more interesting because the combat, especially when you don't use sort of battle mats and things, which
we won't.
D&D miniatures are so expensive. I mean,
they don't have to be, especially when we've got 3D printers.
No, they don't have to be.
But the reality of the way we're going to be doing things and the way we want to keep things to an achievable goal for us, it makes sense not to have a battle.
Yeah, I generally don't like using battle mats because I'm just... Yeah. It allows for a little bit more freedom if you're thinking about where things are. Like, if you've got a battle mat in front of you, you kind of become a little bit restricted to, I move here, I do this. Whereas, you go, I'm going to attack, and then you get bogged down with, well, you're not over here. And, whereas, if you're theatre of the mind, it's like, oh, I attack this person that I'm not near. The assumption is, you've moved over there, right?
It's just common sense, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's just common sense that you would just move over there and go,
and that sort of makes it so that, you condense it down, because movement is fine, but the majority of fights you're going to be in is, you're going to be in a room where you can easily access people.
It's interesting, because our primary content, Legions and Warhammer, I always say that I generally win my games in the movement phase.
Yeah.
Because I will outmaneuver you guys.
Yeah.
That's how I win. It's not necessarily, because as we all know, I roll like rubbish. But I win the game on the movement phase.
Yeah.
So movement, ironically, is something I think is probably for me, is the most key player or component of the game.
Yeah.
But in D&D, it doesn't have the same level of power or effect on the game.
Yeah.
There's not a lot you can... Certainly from my experience in the games I've played, there's not a whole lot of stuff that seems to encourage clever movement. I mean, my very recent example was Baldur's Gate, and there are things you can do in terms of creative thinking and using the environment. But you realistically, in theatre of the mind, as you call it, don't need a grid to do that. In fact, it's always better if you don't.
Yeah, because you get bogged down, at least from my experience with it, you can get bogged down with where you're moving to, what you're moving to, stuff like that. Whereas, theatre of the mind, to a degree, if I set up a fight in a tavern, and you go, well, I want to knock down a table and hide behind it, if I set it up as a battle mat, you've got 3 tables. If I set it up as theatre of the mind, well, it's a tavern. You're likely to have 4 or 5 tables.
The scale is the other big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you're saying with the tavern, Sarah, an average tavern. All right, let's use a modern world example rather than a medievalish example.
Pub,
a bar, a restaurant. If we were to set up your local restaurant as a board for the game, it'd be the size of the bloody table.
Yeah,
because it's a big space. It's got to pack in. It's got to pack in, 40, 50, maybe 100 people into that space.
Yeah.
So the board would have to be huge to actually represent what it's trying to represent.
Absolutely.
And that's just not achievable, is it?
I mean, it is achievable, but it's not practical for most people. It's certainly not practical for what we want to do.
And, there are some really nice, board stuff out there. I know, the big ones sort of, Critical Role has some amazing sort of board setups, and it looks really nice. But I think as well, that can also kind of make the audience think that you need these board setups to, play the game. And, that stuff's expensive, even if you do print it.
I mean, the irony is we do have quite a lot of like terrain and stuff in
Yeah.
Warhammer that we could easily, with a little bit of mod ally maybe, we could achieve something.
Absolutely, especially within setting it being sort of a fantasy, and there's a little bit of magic type stuff in there.
We probably could.
Probably could, but like
But it's not really worth it for what we want to achieve.
No, yeah,
Especially when it's probably going to work just as well.
yeah, it
if
works
not
just as
better.
well. Theatre of the mind, kind of style. It's how I predominantly do the games that I play in and I run. Yeah, I think. Yeah, because you just don't get bogged down with what's on the table.
I do have a question, and it might, like, obviously, this is a completely new thing for me, like Warhammer was, but obviously, I've been in it for a little while now, but obviously, D&D is, like, a complete different ballgame to me. Like, the only thing I've ever consumed D&D media-wise was when he took me to watch the Dungeons and Dragons movie, which is amazing, by the way.
Absolutely.
We love that movie.
It is a phenomenal movie for
It's
how ridiculous
so
it is.
good.
So good.
And it's got Chris Pine in it. And I hated him for such a long time.
Don't anymore though, do you?
I do not. I love you. So my silly question is, do you think it's a safe bet that we create a second character in case we die?
It's the thing is, character creation is a little bit addictive. So
Yes, trust me, I know.
So
I'm 23 and I still write fan fiction, so I get it.
It's almost like faction paralysis all over again.
it is a bit. I don't think I know a single D&D player that doesn't have about 20 backup characters that they can swap in.
I only have the one so far.
So far.
I am saying so far because
Yeah.
I know back in my old days of D&D, I probably had about. I think I had about 8 characters that I was actually playing, not just backups.
Christ.
But yeah, I think you're welcome to. It's probably a good idea to. But I also think, again, with that storytelling thing, death should be a part of the story.
Yeah.
It should be important. I'm not going to be like, as much as the setting is sort of a more brutal one than sort of the general D&D tends to be,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna. My goal is not to kill your characters. My goal is to make the story, and like, as much as I'm not gonna fudge dice rolls, I'm not gonna give you easy encounters.
Oh no,
go through.
it's not. Yeah.
At the same time, I'm not gonna give you ridiculously unbalanced encounters to try and kill off your characters. Like, ideally for me, if the character death happens, it means something, or it adds something to the story, or it's by a major NPC. Right?
But if we decide to just march into the dragon's den in broad daylight, screaming and shouting, you will just burn us all to death, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Yeah, if you do
Something
stuff,
stupid. Actions will have consequences.
actions have consequences.
Cool.
Like the real world.
Yeah, that's all I want.
Yeah. Like, as long as you are smart about it, you will get out of 90% of encounters pretty fine. Like,
So you'll last about 5 minutes.
Oh, that is so mean. I mean,
your character's allowed to be smart.
I think I've chosen a character that should survive most stuff. I think she will.
Whether it's a player.
If I play her really badly, I'm going to cry.
Yeah, I
But
think.
then I'm like, it'll be, if I do die, like, early on, it'll be like a learning curve for me, because obviously it's a new thing. Like, I'm trying something new, so.
The other thing with player death is it is a little bit annoying to like set up plot points and then have a player die, and then you've got to have a new character and or temporary character that is coming in.
I can imagine, yeah.
I mean, it'll be frustrating for me that you sort of have to relearn everything in character, and it'll be really frustrating for you because I have a character in our 5-year campaign that is a relatively new character, and we're close to sort of end game. And there is so much that if I was my previous character, I'd be like, I'm going to say this to interject into this conversation to bring up this thing that my friends have forgotten. But I can't do that because I'm a character without that knowledge. So it's really frustrating.
So the goal is to not die.
Yeah.
And if we do die, try and bring them back.
Yeah.
Even if it takes us another 5 levels of character experience, we will bring them back.
And that's another thing to go on. Sort of experience-wise, you guys are leveling up by milestone, not by experience, which probably won't mean anything to you. Might mean something to you.
Anytime I remember milestones being involved with back and forth.
Okay, yeah. So, essentially, we don't do the you kill a monster, you gain experience. No. It leads to a more combat-focused campaign generally, and also it leads to generally leads to more debates in the party as to who levels up when, who's killed more, and things like that. Whereas if you do it by milestone, I will have a general idea of the flow of the plot, when you should level up, when I want to introduce more.
So it's more of a case of we'll reach a narrative milestone.
Yeah.
That triggers the increase in level.
Yeah.
Rather than arbitrary point system.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I think Baldur's Gate does it quite nicely where, you can't really grind levels in Baldur's Gate and become really overpowered. They do tend to give you the experience up to a point.
What mod you got installed?
I'm sure you can gain it, but...
Can we not install mods? Oh,
damn. But yeah, I just think that I prefer doing it that way, and I think that is purely a personal preference.
I quite like the sound of it. I do have a love-hate relationship with the idea of the experience system of leveling.
Yeah.
I think it feels more natural that as you progress your story, you gain the ability. Because then that does, I'm hoping I'm interpreting this right, is that you have the capacity to level up your characters, even if you never draw a sword in combat.
Yeah, essentially.
You can talk your way.
Absolutely. So if you have a bard that's particularly good at talking their way through something, and they don't fight particularly at all, in an experience-based game, that will put you on the back foot, because the way that experience works is there's set experience for encounters, but there's not set experience for social encounters. But if it's by milestone, you all kind of level up together as the story goes on. So if the bard wants to play the non-speaking, talk their way out of everything role, absolutely can.
How can they be a non-speaking, talk their way out of
everything? The non-fighting, sorry.
I was going to say, the mute bard that speaks their way through situations. I'm a little confused.
They do it in sign language.
But yeah, if you wanted to go down the non-combat route, that makes it a lot easier to do that. Also, I love homebrewing stuff. I love just making stuff and throwing it into the world. And I don't want to try and work out what experience monsters that I've created need to have.
That's fair point. And I like it, because I certainly like the idea of my character being very manipulative and talking their way through things. Yeah. Because, whether I'm actually speaking or not could be up to interpretation.
I'll see it. So in that respect, if you come up to a sentient boss that is willing to talk with you, you would get the same sort of milestone as if you were to go in guns blazing and somehow kill them. I
like that idea. I'm all for that.
Right.
I think that's brilliant.
I overall, as I have said, I'm so excited because I obviously everybody has heard of D&D, and when I was in school, I had friends that played D&D, but I was never
You were not one of those friends.
I was not one of those kids. I was not invited. Everybody else was. I wasn't. And it was sort of it was sort of like, I don't know, it's always been something foreign to me, but like I've always been curious about it. And I know you've mentioned it a couple of times about playing it and that. So this is, I mean, it's like Warhammer all over again. It's something completely new that I've never experienced before that I'm being thrown into. But I think the difference is with D&D rather than Warhammer is it gives me a chance to actually like do the thing that I like, which is storytelling and making stuff up and like making up characters, like, because that's like I live for that. So yeah, it's gonna be really cool, I think.
It is a chance to, and like with us both doing acting and things as well, it's like, yeah, there's a degree of that in there as well.
Yeah.
I'll try and do some stupid voices.
I get told off for doing stupid voices.
Stupid voices.
Yeah, I can't. I suppose I will actually be able to tell you very much.
Incorrect.
I will say, if you come up with an insufferable character voice, I will ask you to change it.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness.
Mostly for you, the viewers.
I mean, in fairness, my character doesn't really speak more so than, telepathy, innit?
Yes, but you still have the voice that people are hearing inside their head, sure.
Yeah. Well, so that means you've got to do a different voice for each of you, because you're hearing it all differently.
Oh, that's really interesting, actually.
You just have to hand everyone notes.
I'll just come up for a different voice or accent for each one of the players. Every time I'm speaking, I've got to put a different one on, which is going to be terrible, because I'm terrible at accents and voices. Yeah. Unless it's orc.
But yeah,
your orc is amazing.
I don't know what you're saying.
Here we go.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah,
it's almost
be fun for you.
Maybe I should be an orc.
No.
It wouldn't make you get on with John anymore.
Couldn't get any worse, is what you're saying.
Oh, it would be better.
Oh, then no. You let me pick my first option, which was a joke in the first place. I'm sticking with it.
Yeah. Which, of course, you will find out. Or will you? Not necessarily straight away.
Are we going to hide that fact? Are we going to keep it a secret?
It is entirely down to you.
Okay.
Your player actions are entirely your
that is true.
stuff.
Might be fun to keep it a mystery, actually.
I'm keeping mine as a mystery, but that's mostly because I haven't ironed out a couple of things. I'm very particular when it comes to my characters. I don't know if you've noticed that.
As most people are. The other thing is, like, I feel like you're going to be the kind of person that wants a lot of dice. Same.
Yeah.
That's why I've said to you guys that if you don't have dice, it's fine.
Yeah.
I have so many.
I have lots of D6s.
Of course you do.
So many.
We do have a large collection of dice.
I have lots of different sets of D6s.
Yeah.
Which isn't that helpful for D&D. I think the first thing I did when I sort of got back into D&D, because I had an interest in secondary and no one to make a group with. And then sort of coming to uni, I was like, I finally have people that share an interest that I can make a D&D group with. First thing I did was go on Amazon and buy the biggest bulk bag of dice that I could.
That's a lot of dice.
I think there was something like 24 sets.
Wow.
And
I think I do have like a set of D&D dice somewhere.
Yeah, I have seen a couple of D&D dice floating around somewhere.
Well, there's
I had some up there.
Yeah.
I did at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know where they've gone.
But yeah, I have plenty of dice to go around.
Wonderful.
I'm sure we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And as we've already discussed, we will be setting up a little dice cam as well.
Yeah.
So we will have all that set up.
We love our dice.
Dice cam for the occasional natural 20s.
Oh yeah, just to prove it, really. So
Yeah.
you know we're not fudging it.
Might be if we can work out how the setup works, might be nice to have like a death dice cam.
Yeah, we'd have to get like a dice tray cam that behind the DM through, so we can't see.
Yeah. Or I mean, we could all just look away when you do the dice roll in the main tray.
I mean, to be fair, the dice tray have got a big chunk in it, so
Yeah.
so we can move it. We'll figure that out.
We'll figure it out.
That's a little bit of fine tuning that one.
But yeah.
Well, is there anything you'd like to reveal, like a little teaser maybe
Before we show.
of what's to come? The story maybe? Or...
Yeah, I can give a little summary of the sort of setting.
We'll use that as our closing bid for this section.
Yeah, so the setting that I have built is... I need to think of a name for the continent.
Yeah, I think a good start is a name.
Yeah.
We need a name.
I usually end with the name. Or just don't think of the name.
Yeah, but if we're characters in the world, we need to be able to refer to the place we're on.
Yeah, absolutely. So the setting takes place in the continent of Thernia, which is the theocratic empire of Thernia. Essentially, long ago there were lots of gods. Then 4 matriarchs came around and ascended to godhood, and they had a big old war, killed all the gods. The gods sort of sealed their powers into sort of crystals. They still kind of have some influence, but a lot less than they used to. And they also left behind their sort of children, essentially, in the Defiant faction, which are sort of like eldritchy beings that are less powerful than sort of eldritch deities, but like more powerful than the average person. The empire consists of the sort of sky cities, which are big old floating cities using the old gods' magic. Even though it's a scarce resource, they tend to sort of overuse it. And the lowlands, which are where everyone who can't afford to live there sort of lives. The sky cities are only accessible by skyships. Skyships only sort of members of the cities are able to access. There are various other ways of getting up there, but we'll discover those.
They're a mystery.
Yeah, the main sort of the setting is sort of split into sort of categories of where people align themselves. There's a sort of Inquisition style faction that includes mostly sort of the people who push the words of the old gods and try and drown out the matriarchs. They see to any issues where people are harnessing the matriarch's powers. There are the warriors of that faction, which essentially they each have their own different way of seeing how they honor their gods, and they are essentially enforcers of that law. The different schools of thought all take on a different identity and a different role within it. And then in the lowlands, there are sort of the rebellion factions, which they're kind of split, fractured, kind of undefined as to their sort of individual goals. There's people who work with the matriarchs. The matriarch's power is dangerous, but rewarding for people who can harness it. There are sort of some people who harness the matriarch's powers have some pretty nasty side effects to them. There are the undefined, which are the children of the gods and the sort of more eldritch type beings. D&D-wise, these are sort of the more monstrous races. And then there's also just your regular people. That just sort of live in the lowlands.
They're just chilling.
They're just chilling in the lowlands.
They're just chilling.
Yeah. There's cult factions as well within those. But yeah, so that is the setting. Magic.
It sounds amazing. I hope you know that.
Magic is sort of split into the several ways that you can access it. Undefined have innate ability for magic. The Inquisition harnesses it through shards of the god's crystals. And there's also the Matriarch's power, which comes at a great cost to the user. The most violent of which being the Matriarch of War's power, and the one that you're going to survive the longest with being the Matriarch of Darkness's power. Yeah, and that's sort of the setting. Story-wise, I'm not going to reveal much of that right now.
That's probably a safe bet.
Yeah, I don't want to.
You gotta keep something for the excitement of it all.
But yeah,
he doesn't want us to know. That's what he's saying.
Also, that we don't know what we're walking into either.
Yeah,
no, we don't.
But somehow I'm gonna make you guys work together.
It will be very interesting.
I say that as if I don't already have a plan. I do have a plan.
I was going to say, so long as you've got our motivation, I'm sure you can swing it.
Yeah.
Of course you can.
Absolutely.
I believe in you, Joe. Just as I believed you could use more than 2 points.
I did.
Exactly. Who was you 3?
Oh, 2, 3, yeah.
It was his nickname, 3-Paint Jazz.
Yeah.
Now he's 9-Paint Joe.
It'd always be 3-Paint Joe, didn't it?
Okay.
Right, well, I think that is probably a good place to wrap up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you, Joe, for providing us with this opportunity.
Yes, thank you, Joe.
And we very much look forward to giving it a go.
So excited.
Very much looking forward to seeing how you all interact.
I'm sure it will be a delight.
Ugh.
So, I think we shall close down this section of our video.
Yeah.
What we shall do is we will now head into our third and final segment, which has been named the Round Table. Well, welcome back and into our final round table. It's not really a round table, really. It's more of a oval.
It's an oval.
If you
It's
like.
fine. It's a round thing. It's fine.
It's a roundish table.
Yeah.
Oh, a giant flyer.
No.
A giant flyer.
No.
Fearable. Fearable slate.
Oh!
Oh. So what you're saying is we need to buy a manta from Forward World.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know,
Please
and
don't.
just stick a flight stand in the middle of the table.
Please don't encourage me to spend more money on toys.
I tell you what, if enough people watch this and enough people show some interest, you won't do this. I know you won't. But you never know. If they give us some money,
100 likes.
100 likes won't pay for a manta. If enough of you would be willing to donate to us to buy a manta for the premium cause of making my dining room table into the flight stand of a Forge World manta,
No.
please do get into contact with us.
No, please don't.
Sure.
There's so much Warhammer in my house. I don't need more, let alone something that doesn't break down and be put into a box.
I'm just saying it's like £1,000 worth of bread.
Oh my gosh! No!
It would look epic though.
It would.
I'm sorry, but if you won't make me a Conrad Kurz model, you can't have
I already said I would.
You didn't.
I did.
Okay.
Not yet. I've got other things to do first.
Okay.
Speaking of other things, segue. We're going to have a little discussion on a particular set of characters that a certain someone has grown quite fascinated with recently.
I wouldn't say fascinated is the right word. I'd
You're
say
right,
obsessed.
And that would be the Primarch. And
No, listen, I'm not obsessed with all of them.
Just
Some of them.
90% of them.
Yep.
Like all but one. Maybe 2.
No, I think it's just
just the one Primarch of the one faction that you might end up playing at some point, which is somewhat ironic, really.
Well, for more reasons, right?
Sure, let's go with that.
Yes. So the Primarch of discussion today is going to be Magnus the Red, the Cyclopean King, Lord of Prospero.
I could fix him. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying.
I haven't finished it. The Crimson King.
Oof.
Okay, now we're done.
I could fix him. Me and Joe are so bad together. This is what happens when John isn't here.
No, this is
John will be contributing.
this is what I deal with.
This is, yeah.
They blame me for it, but I'm not the one who starts it.
It's true.
Whoopsies.
Alas.
Anyway, Magnus the Red. So, did Magnus do anything wrong? I mean, that is the most common question you can find online when any Magnus topic is ever brought up. Do we answer that question, or do we want to leave that a bit later on? Are you ready to go straight in?
I think it's the most pressing question I ever asked.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right, all right. We feel confident that we can answer that question.
I don't know about confidence.
Yes, he did do things wrong, but
is he entirely to blame? Is he entirely at fault?
that's what I was going to say. He did things wrong, but not necessarily the things that everyone debates about.
No.
All of the Primarchs essentially genocidal colonizers.
Yeah.
So, he did some things wrong.
Yeah.
However, not necessarily the things that he's accused of most of the time.
I have a soft spot for him because he had it so tough. He had it real big tough. He had a real big tough time, and he got dealt a really crap hand. And I feel like his actions reflected on the way his life went. So I don't think that. I mean, turning into a homicidal, massive, crimson
demon
for one wasn't.
Yeah, but do you know the context in which that happened?
He didn't really want to, did he?
I kind of do. Was he tricked?
Not per se.
Okay. Because I was under the impression that he was tricked into it and then realised what happened and then went a bit crazy. That was my assumption.
That's Angron. That's how the Red Angel became a Primarch, but Demon Primarch, basically.
I kind of Mortarion.
And, Mortarion was definitely coerced into it. Magnus did choose it in the end, but and I think that's the key about Magnus is he chose it at the very end when there was literally no other choice in his mind.
Yeah.
He fought against being a traitor right up until the last possible second.
Yeah, the word choice is
it's loaded.
It's loaded because really it's just kind of accepted.
Yeah,
right.
It's like he tried everything else before he accepted fate.
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit admirable, in my opinion.
I think so. I mean, he is, without a doubt, I think, for me anyway, he is my possibly favourite, possibly second favourite Primarch. I can never quite decide, because I'm a massive Alpharius fan, hence the Alpha Legion on the table, and my Alpha Legion Imperialis army. So, probably more Alpharius, but he is easily my second favourite, if not tied first. And it's that desire for him really to be the best of what he is for the betterment of his people and his sons in Thousand Sons, and that loyalty he has to the Emperor, who, in my personal opinion, deserves none of it. For him to be scorned, beaten, broken, quite literally soul shattered, and still at the very end try to redeem himself.
Yeah.
Right at the foot of the Imperial throne.
And that was what I meant by he had it tough.
Oh, he had it very tough. And the bit that's important, and the reason why he became the Demon Primarch in the very end, was that he was offered a choice by the Emperor to return to the fold and to lead a new legion. A new legion of Astartes. The assumption is that new legion would have been the Grey Knights, because they were under construction at the time, and that he would be their Primarch. He would become the Primarch of what we assume to be the Grey Knights.
Yeah.
Whether that's true or not, we're not 100% sure, but it's a pretty good guess. But regardless, he was told that if he could be redeemed and he could come back and lead a new legion. But the Emperor, just because of who the Emperor is, and one of the many reasons I don't like him, is that he said to Magnus, "You can come back and I'll forgive you. You can lead this new army and be my avenging son. But you must accept that all of your current sons will be killed."
See, and that is on generational trauma. He had every right to turn around and say, "No, father, no."
Well, that's what he did.
I'm so proud of him for that.
That's the thing. He did say no. He turned him down and said, "No, that ain't happening." And then I can't quite remember the details. I can't remember whether he ended up attacking the Emperor at that point, or whether Vulcan attacked Magnus or whatever. But essentially, one or both of them decided, well, this is clearly going to go nowhere, and started blowing the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
And sadly, Magnus, although he's arguably one of the most powerful Primarchs, when you're up against Vulcan, who is quite literally immortal, and the Emperor is also in the room, and you just fought your way through the whole of Dara to get there, he was losing.
He was in over his head.
And he knew that if he lost, he would die. So he finally gave in to Tzeentch and accepted becoming a Demon Primarch.
And I don't blame him, because he looks good.
And to be honest, I think a lot of us, if we really thought about it, could probably make the same decision in those circumstances.
I know I would. Because...
I mean, I would, so I don't like the Emperor anyway.
But also, I think that, the Emperor assumed that because Magnus was his son, family, that he would just go running straight back. And I think that he should have expected some pushback. He should not have been surprised that Magnus would turn around and be completely like, "No way, absolutely not."
And it's also the thing of the communication issue with the Webway Gate anyway. Okay, yeah, it's a secret project and all, but maybe the son that has the power to just completely derail it should know.
I mean, you should have thought.
Yeah.
You just thought that, there might be an inkling at this superior, almost omniscient entity that is the Emperor might just have an inkling that his most psychically powerful, if not most powerful son, could, by no fault of his own really, end up causing catastrophic damage because he knew no better.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a lot of arguments that said, well, if you walk up to a door that's locked, do you just unlock it without knowing what's on the other side?
It depends. Is the building on fire?
and that's kind of the argument. You've got one side of people saying, well, no, you wouldn't touch it. It's locked for a reason. But then, you say, well, if the building's on fire, I'm going to knock the door down.
Yeah. It is circumstantial. And, I think, the War Master of the entire fleet, maybe, in that circumstance, with the War Master is about to massively betray you and set forth events that are going to be irreversibly bad for most people involved, warrants opening the door.
Yeah.
I mean, the Emperor literally turned around and told him, "You have to accept the death of your entire legion." Did he really? Seriously, did he really expect him to just turn around and be like, "Yeah, sure, Dad, let's go play father, son, happy families"?
To be fair, he probably did, because we're also talking about the same emperor that went on a genocidal crusade across the stars, who also consistently proves that he's well beyond giving a monkey's about his children's welfare anyway.
Look at Conrad.
Angron. I mean, there's definitely a few cases of utter ineptitude when it comes to parenting, I would say, and there's very little humanity in the God Emperor of mankind.
Yeah.
So yes, I wouldn't surprise me actually if he really did think that he would just accept it, because this is the same guy who created Conrad Kurz.
This is very true. Yeah.
No, fair enough, Angron. Maybe not his fault, but at the same time, he's also the same emperor that found out that he could have the nails removed.
Yeah.
But no, we'll keep him in there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it might kill him, but...
Omniscient, all-powerful God Emperor of mankind can't remove some nails.
The guy who is against religion, but wanders around in golden armour.
Honestly, yeah.
with a quite literal halo that he projects himself.
I know this discussion is about Magnus and not about the Emperor, but I do think we should have a discussion on him soon.
I don't think there's any point, because I will rib on the Emperor every time.
I think we will, but I think that would be fun. This is just going to be a one-time comment, just for right now. I truly think that actually the Emperor and the Imperium together is the biggest villain in the 40k setting.
Oh, I think there's quite a few people that would agree with that.
Like it's meant to be.
I don't think anyone's under the illusion that the Imperium is the good guy.
I think a lot of people are under the illusion that the Imperium is
I think so.
But they have the media literacy of the stone. So...
Please tell me we're talking about in universe here.
Huh?
Are we talking about in law people are like that, or are we talking about...
I'm talking about real life.
Okay. Okay, that was...
Maybe we'll save that comment until after the camera's off.
Yeah, you just called out our entire audience then.
Subscribe!
I thought I was bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're all as bad as each other at this point.
Wow, I think you lot get worse than me. So, let's get back onto Magnus and wrap this up. So,
are we all in agreement that we think that he did the right thing? Because I think you're thinking about it now.
Well, no, because the answer is yes and no.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's not a black and white. This is not a black and white yes no question.
Yeah.
You know, was he arrogant and could he have done things differently? Yes. Did he act based on the information he was given? Yes. Did he make the right ultimate choice in the end? Now, that is not a yes or a no question, because the answer really is, it doesn't matter. Because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
If he had agreed, he'd have sanctioned the death of his own offspring. I mean, all right, let's use the term offspring, sons and whatnot is a little bit of a loose terminology here. But thousands of people.
Thousands of sons.
That he refers to as sons. People he believes to be his progeny, his sons. You know, they do have a father-son relationship. So if he'd accept, he's the villain because he willingly kills or allows to be killed his sons.
Well, he allows a genocide, yeah.
And then takes over command of potentially an even more dangerous force to work for an emperor who really is just almost the big bad of the entire setting, in my opinion.
Right, yeah.
And then the alternative is he does what he does in law, and he rejects him, and therefore, in rejecting him and also refusing to just lie down and die, becomes a demon.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it matters. I don't think that he is good or bad. I don't think he's right or wrong. He just is.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, is quite poetic considering he's the servant of Zinch. Really. I mean, there's no beginning, no end, no right, no wrong. It simply is.
Also helps that he's,
But yeah, it's like a lot of things in 40k is that there's so many grey areas. The only good guys are the Tyranids.
all they want to do is eat. Come on.
They're just hungry.
They just want to eat food.
They're not hungry, they're hungry.
Yeah. The only good guys are 40k, so yeah.
I mean, I've heard a lot of claims that orcs are the good guys, but I mean, they're some pretty sketchy stuff when you're not just watching the cartoony, goth rocker running around doing here we go everywhere.
I knew you were going to do that bloody voice again.
Can't help it. But no, I mean, they do some dark stuff. Yeah. I mean, even they're involved in like slavery and stuff with humans and Tau and all sorts. Out there. A bunch of mind-slaved aliens.
Yeah.
And then the Imperium, bunch of mind-slaved humans.
Yeah.
The Eldar, a bunch of pompous. We deserve everything.
The Eldar made a Chaos God.
The Eldar made a Chaos God, yeah. I don't often think about it like that, but yeah. I mean, they think they own the stars, yet the Necrons were there first.
Yeah.
I mean, the Eldar were quite literally made to fight the Necrons.
Yeah.
The Necrons think they own it because, well, they were the first here, which, to be fair, is kind of how most of us react to a lot of circumstances, so you can't really blame them for that one.
No. Necrons just have rule of dibs.
I mean, they basically do. I mean, they were the first and most long-lasting race of, I would say, living creatures, but that's not quite accurate anymore. And again, they're definitely not the good guys, because again, they get up to some pretty nasty stuff as well.
Yeah. Unlike the Tyranids do some nasty stuff, but it's all in the name of feeding themselves and reproduction. So
yes, that still doesn't make them good.
No, but it is all animal instinct.
That's like saying you root for the Xenomorphs in the Alien franchise. Oh wait, I do. Never mind.
The thing is, lots of 40k is bad objectively. The Tyranids are the most neutral.
No, I'm still very much of line. They're still bad. They're just bad for being bad, really. Yeah. I mean, they've got no ulterior motive.
Other than food.
But they are still a negative force.
They're no more evil than a plague of locusts.
I'd say evil, just a negative or bad. They're not evil. I mean, they're not malicious intentionally that we know of.
I mean, I'm not saying...
Although I do find it hard to believe that a network intelligence that can span at least one galaxy must have a level of sentience.
Imagine.
It's got to, hasn't it? I mean, you think we've achieved sentience with our little brains inside our little skulls.
Some of them have massive brains.
The Tyranids, some of their organisms are just brains. Let alone all of the brain power it's got amongst all of its different organisms. You've got to imagine there's got to be a sentience behind that somewhere.
Yeah.
I reckon they've just been playing dumb and we've been falling for it.
Maybe there's just another race that came well before them that started using them as a weapon.
Yeah, right.
As a weapon.
Like the old one, maybe?
Maybe.
Are we going down that line?
I was thinking more Prometheus stuff.
Oh, you were crossing universes.
I was crossing universes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a discussion for another episode.
I mean, to be fair, the crossover's already happened on our channel anyway.
Oh, yeah.
With our Xenonids.
Yep.
Okay. Right, well, we've divulged away from Magnus very quickly.
We did.
But I think overall, I think we've come to the conclusion that Black and white is not a thing that we associate with the Warhammer universe. Magnus did do everything wrong, and yet also nothing.
Yep.
Ergo, we are basically saying there is no answer, and we're not going to give you one either.
I have an answer. I can fix him. There you go. There's your answer.
That's your answer to every problem.
Not all of them.
Apart from Laura.
You don't need to fix Gilliman.
No. He's Yeah. Bit boring for me. Just not. No, I'm not going to get into that. Anyway.
Yes, anyway. So, I think that is a good time to wrap up. Don't you guys?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us here today at the Mead Hall, and I'd also like to thank my very special guests in Joe and Elle. And please do remember to like, subscribe, and share. Do keep a lookout for our Twitch channel, which will be coming very soon. Do follow us on social media. You can find our main accounts under the Mead Hall Gaming tags, and our personal accounts will normally be linked to those as well. But until then, hopefully we'll see you all next time in the Mead Hall. Goodbye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye!
Ta-da!